Okay, all right, that's up. Okay, we are all on well, unmuted, so I think we're ready to go.
Mr. Holly, we're gonna do a mic check. You good?
Testimony.
Okay.
I don't know about YouTube though.
Yeah.
I don't have any more devices to check.
Okay. We're just winging it then. We're good with the technology.
Somebody will text me if it's not working, so I think we're good.
Good evening. Thank you for bearing with us as we work out our technology issues this evening. I would like to welcome you to the March 7th regular monthly board meeting of the Carroll County Board of Education. And I call the meeting to order. At this time, we will observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Our first item on our agenda this evening is the approval of the personnel agenda.
Motion to approve the personnel.
Did we have an amendment to that?
Yeah, I was going to include as amended.
Ms. Robin has made a motion to approve the personnel agenda as amended. How do you vote, Ms. Janey?
Yes.
How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the personnel agenda is approved as amended. Our next item is our, approval of minutes. And the board, we must approve minutes from January 13, 2022 and January 19th, 2022.
Motion to approve the minutes of January 13th and January 19th.
Ms. Robin has made a motion to approve the minutes from January 13th and January 19th. How do you vote, Ms. Janey?
Yes.
How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The minutes from January 13th and January 19th are approved. Our next item is our consent agenda. On tonight's consent agenda, we have budget amendments number 2 through number 7 for state, local, current expense, capital outlay, federal grant, child nutrition, and other specified revenue. We also are approving the SRO contracts for the 21-22 school year for both the middle school, high school campus, and the TES campus. What's the pleasure of the board with the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Carlos has made a motion to approve the consent agenda. How do you vote, Ms. Janey?
Yes.
How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The consent agenda is approved. And Mr. Holly, do we have any reordering of the agenda tonight?
You're muted.
Yes, sorry, I thought I'd get the button. Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, we have 2 items that I would like, if it is the pleasure of the board, I would like to, under school plans with section 13, add our capital base needs grant, and that will go in section 13. And then also, Madam Chair, under the superintendent's update, section other, I would like to call for a vote on item of the Columbia High School field trip out-of-state request.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about those reordering of the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, that brings us to our first presentation tonight, which is with the Performance Services Group.
Got you. So, Madam Chair, as I'm unable to see the entire room, I do see Ms. Kaminsky back there. Ms. Kaminsky, I do see y'all. So, but I heard his voice. Before you tonight, there should be a young man by the name of Mr. Greg K. And also with the Todd Lackey. I'm sure you did not miss Greg, as he probably had to duck to come in. But Greg is with us tonight. Several months back, Mr. Patrick and myself, as a part of just looking at how we could enhance the district, we will look into some work to get some updated information to provide to the board. So on this evening, Mr. Greg Cave is here. I believe with Mr. Todd, there you go, with Mr. Todd, and they'll be presenting the information as we did a air quality HVAC study of Terrell County Schools. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the two representatives from Performance Services.
Thank you, Superintendent Holly. Again, I'm Greg Cave. I'm the Business Development Manager for Performance Services, and this is Todd Leike. He's our Project Development Engineer. We were tasked with 2 or 3 months ago. 2 or 3 months ago, we came up here to do a facilities assessment. And everybody probably tries to figure out what's a facility assessment. So you've probably driven around, you looked at your schools, you've driven past them how many times in a day? You look at it, you see the roofs, you see the windows, you say, hey, maybe time to get a roof, maybe time to replace those windows. Well, we dive into the belly of the beast. When we go in there and do an assessment, we go in and look at your buildings from the inside out. That's where your cost savings are. That's where the most important things that happen with your schools. We try to create what's called an optimal learning environment. And what's that done by? Sunlight, temperature control, and noise. So when we go in there and look at your buildings, that's what we're looking at. And how do we do that? If you can go to the next slide. So we came in and looked at your buildings and existing conditions. It may be a little tough to see. So we rate these buildings when we come in there and look at them. We will go through and look at a rating. We look at your boiler, your chiller, classroom equipment. When we say classroom equipment, that's your heating and air AC. And then you go into just your piping, any type of building management, that's your control systems. For anybody that doesn't understand that, like myself, it's your thermometer that moms and dads tell you to leave alone and everything else. So that's what we look at when we do an assessment on the schools. When you look at this, we looked at your elementary school, we looked at the middle school and the high school. The biggest needs is your elementary school. Those systems, if you can go to the next slide. And it's kind of tough on these, and I can email, I think Dr. Holly may have given everybody, yeah. So we went through and assessed all through these schools, looked at all your pumps, looked at everything that was in there, and basically we gave them a grading. Is what we did. If you can go to the next one. So when we looked at these, this was the immediate needs when we looked at these schools and looked at the equipment that you had in them. The elementary school is an immediate need you have. It's already hitting at or past the assessed, recommended manufacturer's limits. So I'm going to let Todd kind of go in. He's my engineer. He's the smart guy in the group here, and can talk about what he saw, because he was the one in there crawling around looking at all this stuff, and he's the one that can tell you how to make this better. So I'm going to turn it over to Todd here real quick.
Okay, so basically, since I'm engineer, I like to get into detail. I'm going to try to keep this without getting into detail. Your systems here at the elementary, with the exception of 2 different areas, the gymnasium and the cafeteria, all of the equipment is way past its life and needs to be replaced. This includes piping and so on and so forth. So when he said that elementary is the biggest needs, that's it. It basically almost needs a new gut. Gutted and almost. It's the biggest needs. Now, when we go to the high school, middle school, it's sectioned off into many buildings. There is not a plant to replace, but at the elementary, there's a central plant. There's heating and air, basically a boiler and a chiller plant that we can basically heat the whole building. So a lot of this, the biggest need is the elementary. In the high school, middle school, a lot of the equipment there, since it's sectionalized, it's glorified residential, light commercial type equipment, and a lot of it has been replaced recently. So I'm only recommending the immediate needs. There's a couple chillers, a couple air handling units, so on and so forth.
So, kind of give you a background of what we do as a company. We're a design build firm. So we not only do HVAC work, we do renovation additions to schools, we do new construction for schools. We do this all under the design build statute in North Carolina. We do this all across the United States. We're in, I think, 11 states now. Our corporate office up in Indiana. I'm based here, I've been with the company for 3 years. I started up the North Carolina branch. So we currently, right now, are working with Mooresville Graded School District. We're doing exactly what you guys are doing, or looking at here for 2 elementary schools. We did a complete upgrade on their HVAC system. That was new boilers, new chillers, all new control systems that allow them to have optimal learning environments in their classrooms. So we're used to doing this. We've done over 500 projects across the United States. What we like to do is we work with school districts to try to get them to Energy Star, is what we'd like to achieve. Can it be achieved in all schools? No, it can't. Sometimes you can't do that based on where you live, what you have, and the availability of funds that are allowed. So we strive to get your buildings up to the peak performance that we can. And by doing that, it allows us to go in, assess your systems, give recommendations, if you can go to the next slide. So it gives us recommendations to upgrade your facilities. Now, there may be some things that we can keep and we can use, and we will, but overall, with your elementary school, we're giving a recommendation to completely redoing the whole system that's in there. So if you can go to the next slide. And again, this assessment, last time you saw it was all red in the column. That was basically saying, you got to redo all this. No more Band-Aids can be put on it. It's time to replace it because those Band-Aids are not going to hold. You can see with the middle school, high school, you do have some good equipment. You have things that can still be worked on, so it's not as high priority. There are certain areas, the media center, the gym, where we need to take a look at some of those things. But this is our assessment of what we've looked at for your schools. So that being said, if you go to the next slide, obviously that's a look. Is there any way you can blow that up? Look, I'm getting ready to turn 50 in September. I can't see that. Anyway, you guys have this. You have what we call our improvement list is on your email, or you'll be able to have that system. So essentially, we're looking at between $6 and $7 million to completely renovate that over there, and to do your middle school and high school, the areas that we talked about.
That's to take care of the immediate needs.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's several buildings and the elementary.
And when we do that, we all know the world has changed in the last couple of years, and there's recommendations that we figured out that probably this should have been done a long time ago, even without the assessment of COVID coming out there, is to bring in more outdoor air. Now, one thing it does increase your energy, because you got to use a little bit more, because you got to temper that air and cool it down. Look, I have listened to you out there. But you've got to do that, so it does use a little bit more electricity, but we're putting more efficient equipment in, so it kind of balances itself out. You want to bring in more outdoor air, so that way you're not in a stuffy room as we were told as we were younger, but we're bringing in more outdoor air because it does make the students, it gets them more alert, keeps them more in tune with what's going on. So everything that we talked about in doing that, our recommendation over at the elementary school that's laid out into this is to completely do a whole new plant, what we call a plant. That would be kind of the engine that's going to run everything in that whole system. We're not doing individual air conditioning units that you see like on a house sitting outside. We're looking to go in, do a complete boiler, chiller that's going to run a central plant, be new piping through your schools in certain areas. I think some of them we tie into. Essentially, that's what we're doing, is completely a gut of the HVAC system for your elementary school. And we're only saying that because you're getting down to where you're not going to be able to put Band-Aids on these things anymore. We explained the refrigerant on the chillers.
Yeah, the refrigerant, yeah, it's been phased out, so you can get it, but it is really expensive. They don't manufacture it anymore.
So you're going to pay a premium dollar just to get that, and I would guess, because I just stopped and got gas to get up here, that you're going to see prices go even higher and higher. And these prices, You know, we're building schools, we're doing a project right now in Alamance, Burlington schools, we're doing an RFQ that we put together for them. We're on 8 schools for HVAC controls and everything. Prices are going up, so when you guys look at this next year, you keep kicking this down the road, we don't know where these prices are gonna go. We did the Mooresville project and we saw about a 30% increase from when we did that out in 2020. So prices are not getting cheaper. So anything you can do, you need to try to do it, whether it's with us or anybody else, you need to get into it as soon as you can, because we just don't have, and supplies, we don't know how much supplies are gonna be available for you, so. Does anybody have any questions?
Hopefully I didn't.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
and I yield to the board, but I just want to give one point of clarity to the entire information that the board has, and for the public that is in attendance, and for anybody that may be watching online. This is strictly a assessment of our systems. In no way is this saying that our systems are unhealthy. They're just, their physical life is running short. So I just want the board to be aware, because I didn't want anyone to leave and saying that our systems are keeping kids sick or making kids sick. That is not what this assessment was done. This assessment was looking at the productivity and functionality of the older systems that we have in our district. So I just want that to be clear.
That is correct. There is nothing wrong with your system right now. The air quality is great. Everything's good. Your CFMs, which is the air quality that's in there as far as parts per million, everything's fine in those schools. There's no problems. It's just the equipment that's gonna, just time to update it.
It's better to be proactive and get them replaced instead of as they fail, and then you have issues when they fail. You have to hurry up and jump on it, and now with the supply chain, you can't get stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from anyone?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now to our public forum and citizens' comments to the board. And please bear with me for just a moment. My system has
Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. The purpose of the public forum is to afford the public the opportunity to address the board in 3 minutes on matters related to policy or general concern. The board will listen and may ask questions to try to understand the matter being presented. As a general rule, the board delays discussion and/or decision until a later time. Since this is the only time on the agenda that the audience may participate in the board's meeting, if any person wishes to address the board, he or she should make it known at this time. Please remember that no person addressing the board may refer to a student or employee by name, as they are protected by law from such, and may only be discussed in closed session as governed by board policy and commonly recognized practice. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board tonight? And if you do, if we just ask you to sign in.
And Madam Chair, as you wait, because I don't know if we have guests, I'll be taking time.
Oh, okay, thank you. Is there anyone's name on that? I can't see it from here. I'm sorry, Ms. Robin.
None, so.
Oh, none? Okay, we have no public comment this evening. Thank you for that. We are now down to our commendations, awards, and presentations. I'm sorry. It's like a first. Are you gonna make a fun of me? Okay. So we're now down to accommodations, awards, and presentations. And I'm going to defer to Mr. Hawley for that.
Madam Chair, board members, guests, Ms. Yancey, and everyone else in the room that I do not see in the corner, good evening. As I've said, this is one of my favorite points of the board meeting, as it allows me the opportunity to highlight district staff. Good good, Ms. Curls, I appreciate it. Now I see Ms. Carolyn and Ms. Brickhouse. We're good. But it gives us a moment where we can kind of shout out our own staff members and give our own pats on the back. On last week, I sent an email out as I received notification from the North Carolina Department, well, actually, no, I'm sorry, the North Carolina State School Board of Education, as Terrell County Schools is one of 2 school systems in the state of North Carolina where 100% of our staff members receive the RTA bonus. And this was based off of 17-18 and then 18-19 test data. And board chair and other board members, Ms. Simmons, took it upon herself as there was a request. We sent you an email from Ms. Simmons of every individual in our school system that has achieved that bonus, I believe, over the last 4 or 5 years. So if you have not had a chance, just please see that. But just being able to see and hear Terrell County listed or highlighted in a state board meeting is always awesome. So congratulations to the staff members, past and current, of Terrell Elementary School, and quite honestly, all of our community members that assisted our students in being able to get to the point of reading proficiency that our teachers were able to see that recommendation. Also, I would like to give and piggyback off of Principal Ziegler. I saw an email that he sent out last week where he highlighted Ms. Joella Brothers and gave her a special shout out for the ACT testing that was just completed. This year was a little bit different. We had 5 testing sites, as we have not had 5 testing sites in the district, but just echoing and praising Mr. Ziegler. And if I took a little bit of his thunder, I apologize, but want to give Ms. Joella Brothers that pat on the back. Also, the young lady that I see that's sitting at my 12 o'clock, who's reaching behind the seat, Ms. Sheila Kaminsky, and the whole entire CTE department, and her CDC, Ms. Laura Biggs. I want to give them an extreme awesome shout out and congratulatory thanks for the CTE night that we had last week. The event was held to bring individuals out. We also had one of our community partners here as well. So to the CTE department and that staff and teachers, thank you. Also, in closing, Madam Chair, to our other 2 board members, Mr. Scripture and Mr. Carlos, y'all got to sit this one out. I just want to wish us, as we are now in the month of March, a happy Women's History Month. Was in a meeting on yesterday, not yesterday, I'm sorry, I got my days mixed up, everything is running together. On Thursday, where we were looking at the achievements not only of females across our nation, but more specifically in the state of North Carolina. And I would challenge you, and I'll send the board the link, and I'm going to work with Ms. Curls, the Smithsonian, in conjunction with the North Carolina Museum of History, has a special segment on their website that comes with teachable materials, resources for the classroom, where it highlights women in the state of North Carolina, from Miss Congresswoman Eva Clayton down to Miss Paige Marsh, who I did not know of, who is one of our female members of the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame because of her record in golf. And so it was just very interesting in seeing that information and learning about other females in the state of North Carolina. So to the 3 females on our board and my work mate, as everyone calls it, Miss Yancey, I really want to appreciate you and thank you for everything you do as we celebrate Women's History Month. Madam Chair, that is my accommodations for the March 7th, 2022 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Hawley. I also would like to say congratulations for you for being featured in the most recent issue of Eastern Living magazine. If you haven't had a chance to do that, there's a great article about Mr. Hawley and all the things he does. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think we're now to our in-service and instructional programs. And at this time, we have our school reports, and I believe we'll start with our high school and early college because Mr. Ziegler is the only one here this evening.
Good evening, board. Good evening, Superintendent Hall. Good evening, everyone. March is off to a blazing start. So we have moved to perseverance time at the high school. Perseverance time is really an intervention period for us. So it's extra 45 minutes that each student gets in one of their classes per week. So for example, your first block class will meet on Mondays from 12:20 to 1:05. And then second block is on Tuesday, third block Wednesday. We keep club day on Thursday, and then Friday is the 4th block. So again, every student is receiving 45 minutes in each of their classes just for extra support going into the final testing season. CHS also started our Math 1 North Carolina Virtual Public School tutoring. So we're piloting a program It's a great opportunity for us to, and that's really leveraged by the CARES team and Ms. Parker on the CARES team. So every Math 1 student at CHS is currently enrolled in another tutorial. And that's a live tutorial session that they get to participate in. That is 3 days a week. So during that intervention time, they get one class period with a live tutor, and then they have 2 asynchronous, but the live tutor is available for support too, so they can email or call that tutor for extra support. That's 10 weeks, and it's going to be covering 10 math standards throughout the rest of the school year for Math 1 students. Mr. O'Kelly has started moving the woodworking classroom to Poquoson. That actually started today, so we saw a flurry of activity setting that up. Ms. Westcott will start CHS registration for the fall tomorrow, and that's where she's going to meet with every student, starting with the rising seniors, so the juniors. We'll start first, and we work our way down. Ms. Brickhouse, Jennifer Brickhouse, will be recognized on Wednesday on WITN for the Teacher of the Week. That's around 6:40 or 6:30ish. So be sure to tune in for that. We also post on our website. It's a well-deserved recognition that she's receiving. As Mr. Holly mentioned, we held the ACT last week, and it was a very trying time for us. We had 5 testing sites, which was an anomaly for us. Usually it's 1 or maybe 2 testing sites, but we actually had 5, just to make sure that we're meeting all our students' needs. And Ms. Brothers did a great job training and preparing for that and planning for that. So thanks to Ms. Brothers. Ms. Westcott will also holding the SAT on March 12th. Right now we have 8 students registered. That's a Saturday. All SATs are Saturday. That's going to be on our campus. April 5th will be the Beaufort County Community College Test Drive. That's an opportunity for our students to go down and just explore different career opportunities or schooling opportunities, whether it's certificate programs or the full associate degree programs. So the instructors at Beaufort really make an engaging practice for our students, and that way they can really see if that's what they want to do or not. CCRG will be back next year. Our teachers already started planning and working with DPI on some of the training sessions, so that's going to be back again. We've been doing a lot of summer school training, or planning, I'm sorry. This year, in addition to the standard credit recovery at the high school, we're also, Ms. Kaminsky, Ms. Mathias, myself, have been planning for about 6 weeks of themed summer school, and it's really learning through experience rather than learning in the classroom. And each of those weeks will culminate with a field trip associated with the week. So if it's outdoors, we're going to be doing some stuff on the water and learning the history and ecology of the area. And then Ms. Kaminsky has a great one planned with animals. That's going to culminate with a trip to the Asheville Zoo. But just a lot of great things with summer school. We're thinking outside the box and really, again, providing our students opportunities and experiences. March 11th, I'll be participating in the MTSS regional meeting. There's the follow-up to that on May 10th as well. April 4th through April 8th will be the second benchmark testing at CHS. Thanks to Ms. Curls too. We had our first North Carolina Grassroots grant meeting today. Ms. Curls has arranged for a group called Commotion, North Carolina, to come in. It's going to be a study of music and movement, incorporating literacy, social emotional learning, self-awareness and social awareness, and also just self-confidence. So thanks to Ms. Curls for arranging that. Let's see, athletics, baseball and softball are off to a full swing. We have some home games coming up. March 10th is Bertie, March 15th is Hatteras. Then we skip to March 24th, which is Okokoke, 25th is Albemarle, 29th is Beargrass, and that gets us to Mad Mesquite on April 7th. And I believe that is everything. Any questions? All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you for that. Mr. Holly, did you have an update from Terrell Elementary School? Or
Yes, ma'am. And apologize if I look like I'm staring off because I had to shift screens. But Dr. Talley did provide us with information. He wanted to let everyone know that he's not seen any COVID cases within the last 5 days at Terrell Elementary. North Carolina check-ins will start tomorrow for the subjects of reading, math, and science. The UNC audiologists will be doing screenings at the elementary school on March the 17th through the 18th. They did send out potential failure notices to students. Parent conferences will be set up for this Friday. Also, we have, Friday is a required work day, and he wanted to make sure that everyone knew, and I'm laughing as I chuckle as I read this, they will be serving lunch to the staff, and as he says in his email, they will be having a Bulldog good, gone time. So, according to him, Bulldog gone good time, at TES, and that is the information that was shared from Dr. Talley, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're now down to our director's updates, and Ms. Fanny Williams is online, I believe, for the Human Resources and Federal Programs.
Yes, I am. Good evening, to the board chair, board members, superintendent. I would like to share the following updates. The horn keeps on tooting for Terrell County Schools. Last week in the State Human Resources webinar, Terrell County was called out. Under Mr. Hugg's leadership and Dr. Boone's leadership, from 2018 through 2021, there was an increase of from 3% to 7% to 12% of the people taking tests to get licensed. But it gets better. It gets better. 62% of our teachers have passed tests in the alternative licensure program, which means we have met growth. It gets better. 8% of our teachers have exceeded growth in achieving licensure. So that's like 70% of our teachers meeting or exceeding growth when it comes to getting licensed to teach. And I want to thank Dr. Boone, Mr. Holly for setting the stage, because our teachers are really serious about that. Since I've been in the HRC, they're calling, making sure that they get their classes, making sure that they have everything they need for licensure. So that is a very good process that has been well established. As far as our recruitment, we're still recruiting for our hard-to-fill areas. There's a job fair that we will be participating in at the Bob Martin Center on March 23rd from 10 to 2 p.m. So we're reaching out to schools and different agencies in the Northeast and the general public to let them know that the research will be recruiting at that job fair. Also, great news, our intent forms have gone out and they're coming in fast and furious. It seems that no one wants to leave Terrell County so far as the intent forms go. So we're excited about that. And our textbook committee is forming with HMH. We're going to be looking at Hoop, Milton, and Harcourt to start, but we are still searching for other vendors. However, their textbook is aligned to North Carolina. So this week our teachers will receive a survey on what they want in textbooks, whether they want digital, book, or hybrid. And two consultants from the CARES team will also be working with me on this committee. So at our next board meeting, I'll be able to share our committee members and the process we're making towards ELA adoption K-12. That is all that I have. And thank you all very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Fanny Williams, for that update. Next is accountability and EC with Ms. Michelle Brickhouse.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few testing updates. Was already said, TES starts tomorrow with their third check-ins and their final check-ins before EOGs. CMS will do their last round of check-ins the week of March 21st through 25th. And then CHS will do their last round April 4th through 8th. We do have ACT makeups on March 15th because there were 5 students absent. So we'll be getting them tested next Tuesday. I think the summer 2021-22 summer program plan, I think everyone got copies of that. This is where those who were not proficient on their EOCs or EOGs have a time where they can come back for remediation and then a chance to retest, and it will help with proficiency, try to get them enrolled. All 3 schools want to participate in this year. We will be looking at those who weren't proficient, especially those who are 1 or 2 standard deviations away from meeting proficiency, and then look at the others. It will be 3rd through 8th math, 4th through 8th reading, and 5th and 8th grade science, and then 9th, high school will be math 1, math 3, biology, and English 2. Now, they changed it where we cannot do any of the retesting until after all the teacher work days. So that's why you see the dates as they are. Columbia High School will remediate during the last week. TES and CMS is at school, and then they'll start their retesting June 7th, and do those. We're saying June 7th, 8th, and 9th, because we don't know if there might be some kids who might have to take like biology and math 3 or something like that. CMS and TES is going to do a little bit different. They're going to take the last 3 weeks of June and for 3 days do intense remediation for reading, math, and science for like about 4 hours or so a day, and then retest on that 4th day. And we just have to get approval from the board before we can look at it, send it to the RAC in the next couple of weeks. So that's all for that part.
Make a motion to approve the 21-22 summer program plan.
Mr. Carlos has made a motion to approve the 2021-22 summer program plan. How do you vote, Ms. Cheney?
Yes.
How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The summer program plan for 21-22 has been approved.
Got a couple more updates in AIG. We do have 6 teachers plus myself will be attending the North Carolina Association for the Gifted and Talented this Thursday and Friday. It's virtual this year again. So the great part is they are recording all the sessions, and for 3 months from there, we can watch any of the sessions we weren't able to attend because of conflicts. Pre-K for 2022-2023, we have registration set. It's been posted to the website. Flyers are going out around town. Stuff will be being sent home, but we will, from March 23rd and March 25th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then Tuesday, March 29th, and Thursday, March 31st, from 1 to 5:30 p.m., we will be doing accepting applications and screenings, and it will be by appointment. So they will call TES, and Ms. Bernice will help them get set up for a time, and then we'll be accepting applications and screenings, go from there. And this is for any child in Terrell County who will be 3 or 4 by August 31st of this year. That is all. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Ms. Schumberg-House. Okay, next is child nutrition, and I know Ms. Myra's not here. So, Mr. Hawley, do you have an update? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I do. I get to play Myra tonight, and just to let you know, Madam Chair, I forgot to inform you, unless something has changed, Mr. Patrick is not able to attend tonight.
Oh, okay.
Well, Madam Chair, board members and guests, Ms. Myra Schaffner sent a couple of things. There was one that she did not include that I wanted to highlight and just bring to your attention. I believe last month at our last regular meeting, she described the fact that we were getting ready to go under a review. We did get the official documentation from that review, and as she shared with you, there was only one item of concern, which was the misplacement of a heated and controlled temperature reading. And so Ms. Myra has gone back with the staff members. We've already formulated the plan of correction, and that information has been sent to DPI. So on that, she was highlighted for her activism in the food and nutrition department. Basically, the lack of issues and concerns, or we just didn't have them. So I will forward you a copy of that document. We just received that not too many days ago, but I would like for the board to see that, to also see the highlights that the team highlighted, our staff, and Ms. Myra for her leadership. But to Ms. Morrow's notes, on February 28th and March the 1st, she attended the NCPA members meeting and training on product showcase in Raleigh. And I'll be honest, I had to Google what NCPA was, and it's the North Carolina Child Nutrition Procurement Alliance. And they went over procurement timelines, product and quality control, and when and how to report the testing sessions for our students. And so understand that food and nutrition plays a big part in our children testing, but that was also a part of her training. She wanted us to know and to highlight, as many of us have seen since the face of COVID, and quite honestly, as we discussed with construction projects, so what Mr. Cave and them kind of hinted to with the price increase, one of the things that she's being very careful in her planning is understanding the issues with the food supply chain, the cause and effects, and what that means for the future. One thing that she wanted to share is that operational costs have gone up. Driver shortages, equipment delays, raw materials are unavailable, and packing not available in some areas, or for items not even being there to bid. I do know that we've had to go to the point where we've had to buy trays from off of Amazon because our state procurement companies could not get trays to do food. So Ms. Myra was being forward thinking and went a different avenue. Also looking at now up to 4 to 6 weeks in delivery time for distributors to get products from the vendors. And so that is an issue that we have that is a concern. The last two things that she has here, Cisco's will not be renewing our bid for the 2022-23 school year. Our school district would have to rebid food, supplies, and produce back out. So hopefully we won't go through a situation as we did about 3 years ago with milk, where we actually had to settle it with a coin toss. But we are going to have to go into a new process and find another company for our food and nutrition. And then last but not least, her last note here is on the week of March the 7th, which is today to the 11th, we will be celebrating National School Breakfast Week. And I did see tweets that were going out this morning from our Secretary of Education as he was putting out information highlighting all the food and nutrition departments across the United States. So Secretary Cardoza with that information. So Madam Chair and Board, let me double check. That is all of the information Ms. Myers provided for this evening, and that is the food and nutrition update.
Thank you, Mr. Hawley. Next is Student Services, NTSS, and CTE with Ms. Sheila Kaminsky.
I apologize, a little eager there.
That's okay.
Good evening, Mr. Hawley, Board Chair Cloud, board members. Hope everyone's doing well this afternoon. A lot of great things going on, a lot of moving wheels, so I'll try to highlight some of the things, and I apologize for some redundancy. Mr. Ziegler did speak of our move to Pocosin. We started today after multiple setbacks, but it was successful today. We had several people that went to help us with some extremely heavy equipment. Ms. Devonna Davenport, Mr. Vi Holloway, Mr. Denzel Sproul, Mr. Bruce Linton, Mr. O'Kelly, and Alex Ragoza and Kamari Shelton. 2 students were with us today to get things moved in, and they worked very hard. Tomorrow, everything will be hooked up with the electrician so that we should be able to begin classes later this week with the space that we need to keep everybody safe. So we want to thank everybody for their hard work. I really appreciate what everybody did today. Currently, we have to date 147 certifications, which is some of the highest numbers we've had. We're very proud that every student going to Pocosin has certified first aid, CPR, and AED. And we're very successful at that. And we did those students first. It's the American Heart Association, because they'll be off campus with Mr. O'Kelly, who also is certified. So we're very excited. But it's hard to believe we have 2 months left. We're moving into now the time we're credentialing. And so we do still have a good number of students that will credential in nursing fundamentals with the CNAs, with the EMTs, emergency medical technician. And then we have our first students that will actually become majors in woodworking, which is cabinetry 2, and also students that will be majors in ag as well as health science. They'll be majors. So we're very proud of those students because I know they're all going to make it through. We will be we've confirmed it. It's in our course catalog. Ms. Sherry has it. It's now in Power School, so I think that makes it all official. We are adding a child development pathway. We sat down after Mr. Ziegler sent an email to Ms. Biggs and myself where we were at the CTE administrative cohort and said, you know, we've got these kids that have come up and they really want this child development course. So after giving some thought into it, we only have one person that can teach that course, and that's our CDC. So we're going to move some things around for her to teach that. But to give you a perspective, this is the course that on the other end, you come out with the qualification to be a teacher assistant. And we're working with Beaufort so those students can actually earn that here. Now, you know, we've got to work through that pathway and get to that process, but we're kicking it off in the fall. And we're very excited because I think last count, she has about 28 students that had signed the petition. I don't know if all 28, because of scheduling, will make it the first time around, but we're going to do everything we can to try to get them in there. And then we're also adding a Project Lead the Way Human Body Systems course. And the reason why we're doing this is because currently we have a Health Science Foundations course, which prepares you for Health Science 1. And Health Science 1 is all the basic that leads you in Health Science 2, and Health Science 2 is where that's basically anatomy and physiology. Well, Project Lead the Way Health Body Systems is an honors course that you can put in right at the front, so that those students actually get the content that they need and can move a little quicker through that pathway. So we're pretty excited about that because that's also going to help in our biology courses as well. We have our final course, our CTE Administrative Leadership course this month at the end in March. It's been a great experience. I want to thank the board, thank Mr. Holly for allowing me to participate in this. It's been extremely rigorous, but I've learned a lot, even though I've been in CTE for a while, particularly about fiscal policy, and CTE is constantly changing things. So it's been a really nice experience, and I just wanted to say thank you because hopefully we'll finish up with our projects. Ms. Michelle will be giving work keys very soon. As you know, work keys is actually an indicator in CTE, but it comes through accountability. So the CTE department, no staff member, because of what could be seen as any kind of impropriety, can actually be a part of administering that test, but she probably has the largest group of concentrators we've ever had here, which is really great because that means we've got students in level 1 and finishing level 2 courses. So we all wish them well, and hopefully we'll get those scores back pretty soon. And I think that's basically it for CTE. I just wanted to end up by saying, I don't think at this point it's a secret. We're all losing a great employee, but a CTE teacher who is teaching the gaming pathway. But I just wanted to say publicly to Ms. Curls, who no matter what I call her with, she's always got a great attitude. I called Ms. Curls and I said, please help me. I have no idea how to teach this class. No problem, we can't let these kids go without. So she's going to step in and help us finish this because that's the way Ms. Curls is. So on behalf of those students and the CE department, thank you, Ms. Curls. Student services.
Excuse me, one thing, before you go to student services, Ms. Kaminsky, and I apologize for interrupting you, but as you were talking, if you could, I had a chance to see Ms. Michelle Jackson in action.
Yes.
Could you just briefly update the board on what we had and why there's a Beaufort EMS rescue squad sitting out there?
Yeah, this is my notes, and over here it actually says ambulance, and I missed it. But yes, as you know, we have been fortunate enough to add the Emt Pathway, which is a peculiar course. It's taught to high school students, but it's not considered a high school course. So that's why you can have a EMT instructor teach it who's not necessarily a public school teacher, which we all know CTE is persnickety anyway, in the way that certifications go. But she is actually working with a wonderful gentleman named Billy Respis, who is the head of the EMT program at Beaufort. And our students are getting face-to-face as well as Brady Lab. And we do have, it's kind of funny right now because they were loading and unloading stretchers, so it kind of looks like it's a little like Humpty right now. It's jacked up where we had some people couldn't reach it. But we have a training ambulance on campus, and our students will begin learning how to drive that. So they'll learn how to drive that. They're going to learn how to do every aspect of being, an first level EMT. And then our next move will be getting us a pathway on through to paramedic. But Mr. Respis has been very proud of everything Ms. Jackson is doing. She's taken this very seriously. The kids have responded exceptionally well to her. That they're doing what needs to be done, and you know these kids are very proud of this because they know they're going to be the first group. The wonderful guinea pigs, as we call them, but they're really doing a great job, and they're being very responsible. But Miss Jackson is really doing great, so we thank the elementary school for letting us have her, and she really knows what she's doing. She's a great paramedic. Anything else, Ms. Rowland? Okay. All right, so student services. Mr. Holly alluded to our giveaway of student services, and I want to thank Ms. Janie. Hotline was there, and we had Elizabeth State University who was there. They have a program that they work with Mr. Ziegler and Mr. Holly made mention, where they're trying to get individuals who left high school but would like to go back to college. So but they were there trying to recruit and grab people as they could. We only had about 10 individuals come in. But of those 10 individuals, I would say half of them were just random students that came in and grabbed things. There were a couple people that came in and got boxes and boxes of things and were taking them out to other people they knew needed them. So just as soon as the first person got there, as a team, we said this was a success. We're going to do it again when school opens next year if we can help a family. I did want to thank Miss Selene Woodley. She was there to help us translate, which was a nice addition this time. And the student services team kind of sat around and fellowshipped when it was downtime, but got up and we were helping pick out clothes and what's the difference between a girl's 10 and, you know, everybody who had kids were very helpful. I just stood there and just kind of greeted everybody. But it was very successful, and we're planning on doing it again. So thank you to everybody who donated things. We do have our dinner this Friday night, and just a reminder, we've sold a lot of tickets. Thank you to everybody who has bought tickets. 100% of that money will go back into student services to support our kids and our families. So one of the very first things we're going to do is our family who most recently had a fire. We didn't have a lot of baby clothes. So there are some needs in that family for some smaller clothes. So that's one of the things that we're going to see if we can do for that family. This Friday, we have also the 20th annual State of the Child Conference that the entire Student Services Department, we will all attend that. It's virtual, so we're actually going to do that together. Couple other things I think Mr. Ziegler made mention of this. MTSS regional meeting. I'm really proud of how MTSS is going. We've had 2 referrals from the middle school and 2 referrals from the high school. We actually met today, and we were able to find very quick, very reasonable, and very supportive resolutions to those referrals. Some of them went out to emotional and social concerns. A couple of them went to questions between EC and what kind of support that we can do there. So we've got some more work to do, but we've got plans in place to make sure those students get the support that they need. He also made mention of the summer camp experience, which that has been a lot of fun, just kind of shooting for the stars. But our goal when we get finished is to have a great summer experience for the kids that need support and need us to help with that, you know, that lag that COVID is called in a very compassionate but supportive environment, but then also to give kids an opportunity to experience things and enrich and to grow. So we're excited about that as well. And then finally, I'll just end up with athletics. Athletics, I look at it differently now since I'm out there trying to make sure we've had 2 injuries. Ironically, the same identical injury, a line drive to the pitcher, but no major damage. We limped around for a couple of days, but so far everybody's standing and doing well, so that's good. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. Kaminsky, for all the different roles you're fulfilling for us right now and those updates.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm going to go back to Mr. Ziegler now with the North Carolina DPI CARES Act support team update.
Hello again. Before I get into the CARES Act, I just want to say how, I know it's going to sound biased because I'm principal of a high school, but how impressed I am always when I think about the opportunities our students have here. We're one of the smallest school districts in the state, yet through Ms. Kaminsky's leadership, we're able to have EMT classes, health occupational science classes, and they mesh, they lead to Beaufort County Community College. I mean, there's a clear pathway for all our kids. So it's just an amazing opportunity. And when I was in high school, it was 3 options. You had vocational, academic, or business, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it steered you. But now, we can take kids wherever they want to go, and it's quite remarkable and, as I said, impressive. But going back to CARES Act. So, March 15th, we have a curriculum council meeting that is with the CARES team and the district council. We meet and just decide and plan out the rest of the school year and also into the summer now. Prior to that meeting, that's 3:30 to 4:30, the CARES team is on school campuses, observing classrooms and helping coaching teachers. On March 22nd, we also have a 1-hour after-school PD session. That's with math DPI consultants, so they'll be with us. And we divide down into 3 groups. We have TES, we have CHS, CMS, math teachers. Then we have everyone that's not working with math consultants meet in another room. And that's really going to be looking at NC check-in data, iReady, and benchmark results. And then March 23rd is our half professional development day. That is going to be 2 to 5 o'clock. And that's going to be ELA focus on read alouds, differentiation, and also some more focus back on data. Then we go into April. Again, April 12th is going to be the curriculum council meeting, and then for April 26th is going to be a focus on finishing strong. So it's going to be our final push for final exams. And that is the CARES update. Any questions? Thank you all very much.
Next, we have our COVID procedures review. Mr. Hawley, I'm going to turn that over for you for the update there.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members again. I think that's probably the 4th time I've said that. Just to give you information on where we are, and before we move into the rest of our discussion around COVID, speaking with the principals and looking at the feedback that they have gotten from their teams, teachers just in general, now with us with our current state, just saw the update that came out at about 5:15 this evening. There's 2 new COVID cases reported in our county. But with that, as you've seen, we have not had any of those cases reported with any of our students in our time. Given that, the principals have indicated to me that they would like to return back to our normal mode of operation as far as the movements within the building of our students and our staff. One of the things that we are going to do is we're going to go ahead, and the principals have asked for the teachers' request, that some of our schools and classes still have the face shields up. However, out of an abundance of caution, several principals have made mention that they would like to still keep a few, just in case a kid comes in one day with a runny nose or something that's a little concerning. They could still, especially the elementary school, they want to keep at least 2 or 3 of those up in the classrooms. Our water stations, we talked to Mr. Doug Patrick last week. He was going around to make sure all of our water stations are available. I, as a superintendent, I do not think that we should have any problems with our kids still utilizing those bottle filling stations. I do have some concerns of us getting back to kids bending over and using mouthpieces. So I'm going to try to caution the usage of that at this time. However, we still will do everything we can to provide water for those students that need it, but students will still be allowed to utilize the bottle filling stations. So, Madam Chair, realistically, just looking at the feedback, the letters that I got, especially from the elementary school, we were trying to move back to a sense of normalcy, if we may say. I will tell you, though, there was a little concern and hesitancy that was described to me as far as opening our buildings back up to just movement of families coming in and out. The concern is, one, we've got our traffic flow down to a science. If we get to a point where we have individuals that are dropping off kids and walking them in the buildings and spending time, that kind of throws our flow off. And I see Officer Shelton's here. He can feel free to jump in if he feels like it. But at this point in time, we think that we should bring our district back, opening our cafeterias back to usage. We can get our kids back in there safely, but start to make our slowly progressions back to our normal sense of normalcy with movement in our buildings.
Is that including the school buses as well?
Yes, sir. So I'm glad you pointed that out. That was one of my notes. I just missed it. So the latest guidance that went into effect as of today, Governor Cooper sent it out, I think it was last Tuesday, and I did forward that email to the board that morning I received it. that the CDC and North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, as they encourage us to move away to making optional masks, one of the requirements that is no longer a requirement from the feds or the state is the requirement of wearing a face mask in a school-operated bus. And so that effect actually went into, that ruling went into effect today, as they did release the newest updated toolkit with that information. As a matter of fact, our local health department did another copy of that out this evening as well in their update. But yes, sir, as of right now, the drivers that asked, I did share the information with the drivers as soon as I shared it with the board, but I also told them we would hold off on any type of official, this is what we're doing until the board had a chance to look at it, and I could answer any questions the board members may have tonight. But yes, that requirement of face mask on public transportation by the school system is no longer a requirement.
For preschool also, right?
Yes, from my understanding, yes. And so that preschool was off of it too.
So we are taking the shields down at the schools and we're just keeping a few around just in case we need them. Is that my understanding?
Yeah. So I'll be honest, what happened, the bigger bodies at our middle school and high school were knocking them down. They came down a little bit earlier, and that was not anything that was authorized, I'll just be honest with you. But the elementary, several of our classes still have them up and walking. I did have several teachers that asked me, could we look at moving the shields? But yes, it is my understanding per a letter that Dr. Talley sent to me that he would like to have a couple of them still set up in classrooms in case there was a situation where a child, broke out to something that they thought was of concern. But yes, sir. Now, I will tell you this before I move on. I would work on getting them and storing them because that's nothing I believe we should toss and get rid of, because there's no telling what could happen in the next couple of weeks or months. So we'll work on storing them within the district, as that is something that we should be holding on to in case we ever find ourselves in another situation like this.
Thank you.
I have another question related. Has anything changed in the legislature with general statutes? We're still having to approve the monthly statements, correct?
Yes, and I have not seen, and that was one of the questions that was in our chat room with superintendents. We have not seen that, and if I missed it, I missed it, but that was one of our questions that we were going back and forth, and we were kind of trying to see if there was anything added in that guidance, but I had not seen that, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
So what I would advise the board, just in all honesty, I would move forward with the process, and maybe we should get a formal statement out of the governor's office shortly that we can have it. But I would still encourage us to go through the process this evening, and if we update any changes, we'll go from there.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Hawley with the COVID procedures review? Hearing none, is there anyone who would like to make a motion in regards to our stance on face coverings?
I make a motion we continue with mask optional.
Mr. Lee has made a motion to continue with mask optional. How do you vote, Ms. Janey?
Oh, yeah.
How do you vote, Ms. Robin? How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Terrell County Schools will continue with mask optional for face coverings. Okay, we are now down to school plans, equipment, and fiscal affairs. And you have Mr. Doug's report, or you want to go to the capital needs-based grant?
No, ma'am. I'll go to the capital needs-based grant. So committee members, board members, and guests, the board and I have engaged in a couple of weeks of conversation and looking as the state has come back and allowed $500 million to be awarded to school systems to complete projects. If you remember, in I believe it was November of 2018, Dr. Twyford submitted a second request to the previous request that was sent by Dr. Will Hoffman for at the time, I think it was a office space. It soon changed into a CTE learning lab, and it was approved in October of 18. We went through the bid process, we board set plans, construction, we selected a bid, construction firm, architect, and then COVID hit. Everything material-wise went up, labor went up, everything went up. So the original grant award to the district was $857, quote me if I'm wrong, Ms. Simmons, with a $200,000 of that being a match of local funds. We have now learned that with this new application process, the district, because of our tier status, no longer has a match. However, we have heard through the application process of this new $500,000 that there is an opportunity for the school system to go back and ask for additional money. When we bid it out, our highest bid was somewhere around the 1.6. I think our lowest bid at that time came in at 1.3. So we're working with the board and our architect firm, we're believing to complete the project. We're looking at anywhere now with the new costs, as you heard Mr. Cade and Todd say earlier, 30% increase. We're looking at a $2.2 million bill. And so, Madam Chair, as we looked at the information I shared with you that we learned as a 540, I would like to seek approval to continue to move forward and get the adjusted numbers now that we've learned that our original award still stayed as a part of our funding source. We now need to get the difference in application of what we've already been awarded minus our local match, but to make up the difference of the $2 million. So just a rough math, and I thank you, Mr. Scripture. We're looking at now, in addition to what we've already been awarded, round numbers, about $1.6 million is what the ask will be in this new grant application that will get us to $2.2 million for that building. There was some discussion, Madam Chair, if I could, just in a point of clarity, as I know people in the community had heard or listened. There were discussions amongst the board of us looking at submitting multiple grants this go around. That would not be the most beneficial to the board to seek the increase that we're asking for the original project. It is my understanding that this money is going to be recurring. However, it does look awesome for us to go. We originally thought $27 million to build a consolidated school. We looked at the pricing. You're looking at a 150,000 square foot building. If you go that way, with the square footage being around 475 a square foot, that puts you at $67 million to build a consolidated school for Terrell County schools. Mind you, right now, the only pot of money that's out there is $500 million. And so it would be my suggestion that we go with the original plan of trying to complete the CTE Learning Lab that would be located where the old central office was, but continue giving the information that we also got tonight from Mr. Cade and Performance Services, that in the long-range planning for the Terrell County School Board, we really need to do some long-range planning to try to grab some of this money as it is coming down from the capital needs and funding on Jones Street.
So at this time, we need a motion to submit the capital needs-based grant, needs-based public school capital fund grant application.
Yes, ma'am, and what I will do is I have a meeting first thing in the morning, and I'll get with Ms. Carolyn to update her on the new numbers, but I will be submitting that now with the new information of our previous award subtracted from what we have in front of you tonight.
Is there a motion from the board to move forward with the grant application?
Make a motion, we move forward with a capital needs based assessment grant.
There's a motion for Mr. Scripture to move forward with the needs-based public school capital fund grant application. How do you vote, Ms. Janey? How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. It's approved to go forward with the grant application, Mr. Hawley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll also have the floor, and we're on physical plants and improvement. Once again, I want to thank Performance Services for that information as we can use that in future planning, but also want to make the public and the board aware, as the board is already aware, through just honestly the great conversation and planning from Principal Ziegler, Mr. Mathias, and Mr. Mike Cole, our county AD in Parks and Rec. One of the things we've been talking about for several years, and Ms. Simmons has been a part of that, is the need and the concern of our insurance provider not wanting or desire at a higher rate that we have wooden poles around our football and baseball fields. That becomes an issue when we start looking at insurance and rates for those things. And so through the conversation of those individuals, myself just talking to individuals on quite honestly, Jones Street and those at NCDPI, we, through those side conversations and whatnot, we were made aware on last Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, Sunday before last, that the district has received $101,000 to do athletic field upgrades. And so what we're doing, Mr. Patrick is working with Muscular Lighting to give us a new and updated quote, and we will be submitting that information to receive that $101,000 to begin the upgrade of our baseball and softball field lighting situation so that it's safe, not only for our student athletes, but also for our community, as our desire, thank you, Mr. Carlos, for bringing this up, is to, once we get the pole lights at the football field, get them designed so that we can get lights on that practice field across from our transportation department. So that is our plan, but part of that plan is we need to get an updated quote and scope of work to NCDPI, and Mr. Patrick is working on that over the last couple of days of us finding out about that award. Madam Chair, that is all of the updates I have for fiscal plans.
Thank you for that update. That's exciting news for that award from DPI. Next, we have our financial report, Ms. Carolyn Simmons.
Okay, you have the updated budget report as of the end of February. We received 7 allotment revisions during the last month since the last board meeting. Some of those things are new money dropping down. We had literacy intervention money drop down, $3,371. We had the rest of our PRC IBEA handicap funds drop down $120,000. We also had homeless grant number 2 drop down of ESSER funds, $5,302. And then we had in revision number 41, some adjustments to the ESSER fundings for new and growing charter schools. Some of that money was a reversion, some of it was additional funding, but that's all outlined in revision number 41. The most significant amount of money is in revision number 39. We received $313,565 in PRC 071 in supplemental funds for teacher compensation. That's a low wealth funding that was made available to Terrell County to provide additional annual supplements to teachers and certified employees. That's based on a supplement of $4,250, and the certified people that are included are the teachers and the instructional support folks, so that would be guidance counselors, social workers that are based at the school level. One of the requirements is that the board develop a plan on how those funds are to be expended. We just received the funds the 1st of March. So for this year, what the recommendation is to look at those employed as of the April payroll, and then distribution for those people in the month of May. So that recommendation is in there for your consideration. This is a recurring pot of money. We don't know how much that will be next year. And so it also recommended that we look at the supplement amount as it is appropriated to the county and make those decisions about how those funds are to be distributed once we know what the dollar amounts are. You also approved the budget amendments earlier. on the consent agenda, and I sent you a summary of what that looks like. Our original initial budget that was approved based on last year was a little over $10 million. Most of the amendments that you received were for federal dollars that came down in ESSER fundings, and so there was this one initial amendment that was made in July. That was the $2.2 million in ESSER funds that were carried over. For March, we had all of those amendments that were approved, those 6 amendments, an additional $1.7 million. So our total budget for this year, including some carryovers with federal money that will go through for a couple more years, $14.6 million in budgeted revenues for Terrell County Schools. So there was one more piece of news that I wanted to share with the board. Our auditor, Donald Winborn, has resigned, and we are going to have to look for a new auditor for next year. I sent Mr. Holly a draft of an RFP that we need to send out so we can get those services contracted. I have some information from other regions, auditors that are doing things, around us. So I have 4 or 5 names that we can send those to. Hopefully in April, so we can get that audit process started. Right? And I think that's all the information I had, unless you had any questions about all those documents I gave you about the budget amendments and the budget reports.
Do you, real quick on the RFP, we don't need to approve anything. We can send those out without approval, correct?
Well, since it is issued by the board, when I sent it to Mr. Holly, it is probably a good idea if you look at that.
Okay.
If you look at that and it's approved by the board before it's sent out. And we can do it by email, okay, and we can post it on the website. I've already had one auditor reach out to us and said that, they're working with some other districts and they would be willing to come here. But we probably need to get some quotes, okay, to see what that's going to look like. Not something that I really, we know that the first year audit is going to take more time, right? Because we'll have to work with the auditors so they know how our systems work.
Okay. You can get us a sample RFP so we can get that approved and get that out there. Yes. And then, am I hearing correctly that we need to adopt the process tonight, Mr. Holly and Ms. Carolyn?
Yes.
Okay.
We do, so that we can, how we're going to distribute those funds. The other regions that are around us, they're adopting different ways of doing it, but the most common way is for every person to receive the same amount of supplement. I know there's one district that was using percentages, depending on where number of years of service. It's a little more complicated formula that they were using, but our recommendation after talking to Mr. Holly is that we do pay everybody the same amount of the supplement for this year.
Does everyone, I know some of us have a printed copy of that, but does everyone understand what Ms. Carolyn's asking? It didn't populate on our electronic, that's why I'm asking for clarification. So what the process recommendation that she read was, while funding for this allotment is recurring, the amount might vary from year to year, and she would like the Board of Education will review the allotment annually to determine who is eligible and to determine the amount to be distributed. All teachers and instructional support staff employed as of the April payroll each year will be considered when determining eligibility. The amount of the allotment will be divided equally among all those who qualify with related employer FICA and retirement costs considered when determining the amount to be distributed. Payment of the supplement will be made in the month of May each year and/or is approved by the Board of Education. So that's the process recommendation that we would need to approve tonight.
Is that the process recommendation for this year or ongoing? Because
would it be for this year only?
For this year, and then we review and then review it and then make a decision based on what that, depending on how much money we get.
Right.
According to the budget that we have right now that's approved, we will receive it next year, but we just don't know the dollar amount.
So could we add to the process recommendation, Mr. Hawley, 2021, 2022?
So, I would, because this is that 1 year, and Ms. Gurley hit it on the head. And this is kind of what we said a couple of months ago when this money was coming down. The state has kind of put a number out there, and just to be transparent and honest, I guarantee you half of our staff members have seen that magic number, and if we came back and said, oh, we only gave you 2,000, there would be a lot of questions around it. So this recommendation before you is based off of the number that they have added to Terrell County, but definitely, Ms. Cloud, I think that's the right way to go, to put that date on this recommendation, and the board look at it for future purposes based off of the allotment and the funding that comes down.
Is everyone good with that process? May I have a motion from a board member to move forward with accepting that? Ms. Robbins made a motion to go with the process recommendation for the 2021-22 school year that Ms. Carolyn has outlined on the financial report. How do you vote, Ms. Janey?
Yes.
How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The process recommendation is approved for the 2021-22 school year. Thank you, Ms. Carolyn, for that update and all the hard work with the budget amendments. We are now to our policy section, and we need to do adopt the face coverings.
Well, it's not correct because the
Yeah.
option B says you have to wear it on the bus, so it needs to be updated.
So I don't think we can adopt that tonight then, since we don't have an updated copy. Can we, I guess we could strike it out and go with that. So which section is that? That's the option.
That's
B.
under option B. It says use is required when on buses and other transportation vehicles.
You want to amend it to strike that sentence out?
It's no longer required.
I would, if I could,
Go ahead, Mr. Hawley.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, as I saw he was reading and listening. Seeing that we have not gotten a newer update based off of the question that the board posed, Ms. Yancey, correct me if I'm wrong, we did the last policy update in a work session, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right, so so it says in our regular monthly, but we did this in a work session that was after our monthly, which actually gives us more time. I would just ask if the board would just let us go and investigate if there's a new change to that, but we remain as we are unless there's a new update to those masking policies. Because as of right now, we still should be in time because that was changed at a work session that was after our regular board meeting.
So what you're saying is that we would not let masks be optional transportation at this time?
No, I would say that we should, well, let's do it like this. We can take that out. I don't want us to adopt something that is not in that document from the state, if that makes sense. So what we've gotten is, we've gotten a mandate that's changed, but we haven't seen a new document matching that mandate for you to approve as a board.
Okay. Then I'm okay with that.
I would agree. I'd say we
that.
skip
Yeah,
it.
we skip it.
I mean, what are you gonna do? Come back and tell us to put the mask back on?
Yeah, well, I mean, no, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
So let me investigate that and see if that changes, but as of right now, the board has already decided that we're going with the guidance that's on the toolkit, which does say that masks are not required, and the governor's announcement did say masks are not required on our buses. I would just encourage us to follow the guidance of that toolkit in those areas and move forward, and if anything changes, I'll bring it back to the board.
Okay, that works.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next policy updates for first reading are, there's the two sets, and they're to be adopted for first reading, and they're very lengthy. Can we provide these on our website instead of taking the time to read each one individually? If we adopt this for first reading, so people know what we're looking at? Okay. So is there a motion to review these for first reading, the 22 to 23 policies that are up here.
So moved.
Mr. Carlos has made a motion to approve set 1 and set 2 for the fall 2021 policy updates, to adopt them on to approve them for first reading. How do you vote, Ms. Cheney? How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The policies have passed first reading. Okay. The next item is our other business, and we have one item we added there. Under our other business tonight, we have the superintendent search contract. And the recommendation is the board must choose a search firm for moving forward with the superintendent search. And is there a motion from the floor?
Make a motion, we go with the proposal from the North Carolina School Boards Association.
There's a motion from the floor to accept the contract from the North Carolina School Board Association. Is there any discussion about that? Hearing none, how do you vote, Ms. Janey?
Yes.
How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. We will pursue the contract with the North Carolina School Board Association to conduct the search for the new superintendent. Okay, our next item is our superintendent's report.
Unmute myself. Madam Chair, board members, in closing tonight, there's a couple of items. One, around the legislative update. I will send you, AASA has released their national legislative goals. I just received a copy of that on Friday. I will send you a copy so you can see nationally what our educational institutions are fighting for around public education. I will bring to your attention, though, a couple of items that came up. There are some changes that will take place, that are taking place with MOUs around rules and changes with our interscholastic middle school and athletic sports. I don't know, and this could be a conversation for another day, as I've had several superintendents to reach out to us. There are school systems that with these changes are actually looking and trying to see if they're going to allow sixth graders to play football. So that could be something that could be another set of discussion for Tarrant County Schools Board. Also this week, NCDPI released their COVID-19 impact analysis, and loss of instruction time report. If you had a chance to listen to the state school board meeting on last week, this was a topic that was heavily covered as the state and Dr. Maurer presented information around learning loss and how the state is moving forward to trying to correct that. In addition, wanted to just throw this out. This is not really a legislative matter, but Governor Cooper did proclaim March the 2022 as Student at Work Month. And so school systems across the state, as we've already doing here through the leadership of Ms. Kaminsky and the CTE department, it's a renewed focus on trying to show students and being able to host and expose them to career paths once they leave high school. One of the other things that I wanted to bring up to you that is happening legislatively, last week I did attend our meeting. It was a joint meeting of 92 superintendents and 52 of the 58 community college presidents. And one item that the board is going to have to pay attention on is there's a lot of movement now and concern around the early colleges. And the fact that the early colleges are prepping students and in some circles, the state is looking at the funding that they're spending in community colleges and the funding that they're spending as it relates to our early colleges. And so there is conversation and push. We still need to put out as much product we can of our students to our early colleges, but I will tell you that there are opponents to that model because there are questions around the FTE and funding for high school students taking courses, and then the money that our community colleges are getting as well. So just be aware of that movement, as that is a topic of discussion and quite honestly a discussion of concern. I am also looking at my notes, Madam Chair. The only other thing, if I could, and I'm switching between screens, so I apologize if I look a little off. The one thing that we wanted to add is under number C. Mr. Ziegler, if he's still with us, he can elaborate on it if there's any additional questions, but we do have a field trip request that is before you where we have students at the high school that have the opportunity to travel to Los Angeles for the National Journalistic Conference and Journalism Conference. And that takes place April the 7th through the 9th. They would actually be flying out on the 6th. But if the board has any questions of that information that was provided to the work session, I believe you got an updated copy tonight. If you could, I am looking for approval. If that approval is granted, I would definitely think, per the question of Mr. Armstrong, that this great, awesome opportunity should be something that's posted out to our community. And if it is approved, I would love for the students and staff members to come back and report on this event at an upcoming board meeting, should the board approve.
Make a motion to approve the field trip.
Mr. Carlos has made a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip request form for Columbia High School and the Journalism Education Association Conference. How do you vote, Ms. Cheney? How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The field trip request has been approved.
Thank you, team. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity for our students and staff. Madam Chair, that is all I have, and my indication is just telling me my battery's about to die, so I need to find a charger.
Is there anything, other discussion to be had this evening from board members? Hearing none, is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Ms. Cheney has made a motion to adjourn. How do you vote, Ms. Cheney? How do you vote, Ms. Robin?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mr. Carlos?
Yes.
And how do you vote, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The Terrell County March meeting is adjourned. Thank you.